Hey, it's Don. Welcome to Don't Worry, I'm Finite. Before we get to anything else, I want to tell you about a giveaway I'm doing. If you haven't listened to this week's episode with Kristin Lajeunesse, go to wherever you get your podcast and listen to that episode. We had a great conversation about building a business, traveling the country, and a lot of other great stuff. Kristin has donated 2 signed copies of her book, Will Travel for Vegan Food. It's an exploration of her journey across the U.S. to find all of the vegan restaurants and all of the crazy things that happened to her along the way. So go enter that contest at my Instagram at Don't Worry I'm Finite, and look for all the details there and in the description below. Hope you win those. So now I'm going to give you a little bit of bonus content. We made a little video to introduce you to this giveaway, and I'm also going to give you a little bit of extra video content from this past week's episode. So I hope you enjoy it. See you in the next episode.
Hey everyone, I'm Kristin Lajeunesse from Will Travel for Vegan Food. In conjunction with this week's episode of Don't Worry I'm Finite, I'm giving away 2 copies of my memoir, Will Travel for Vegan Food. Details on how to enter below. Enjoy the episode and remember to eat well and travel often.
How did the book come out of your travel? Was that a plan from the beginning, or did that develop afterward?
Yeah, that's an interesting one because I didn't think I had planned to write a book about it. It certainly wasn't on the agenda. About a year into the trip, I got an email from, or maybe it was a Facebook DM, I don't remember, from a guy who said that he had just started, he's vegan. He had just started a publishing company with his wife, and they were looking for people to write stuff. And they said, are you thinking about writing a book about your trip? And I said, no. And they said, if we pay you, will you? And I said, yes. So we agreed. Like, I remember signing the contract when I was in Houston, Texas, and I was so excited about it. And we agreed that when I finished the trip, I would start writing the book. And initially they wanted it to be like a coffee table book of just like pictures of the road and food and interesting places.
Mm-hmm.
And when they realized how expensive that would be for them to produce as a new publishing company, they asked if I could write a memoir. So I Googled how to write a memoir, and that is the short version of how the book came about. I got in the van, headed out, and I thought it would take a year, and then I'd go back to Boston maybe and find another job and another apartment and another boyfriend, because I left the one that I had before behind.
You really left everything behind.
I did. Well, he wasn't interested in joining me, and our relationship had run its course. We both knew that. So it turned into basically a 2-year long excursion. I ended up eating at, I think it was 547 restaurants. Any place that I could find that was labeled as fully vegan is where I was headed. The goal was to try to eat at every vegan restaurant in the country, if I didn't say that already. So yeah, it took me about 2 years. I finished that journey. And then I'll take a pause here just in case there's so much more to say, but in case you want to ask specific questions about that.
There's a couple of things actually. So first of all, the kind of people who read Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek and then wish that they could do that those numbers have to be much higher than the people who actually like throw everything out and just hit the road and go do what they want to do. Because, I know a lot of people who have read that book and they're like, yeah, that's what I'm going to, and then they continue working their 9 to 5 forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Everybody likes the idea of it. Very few people have the follow through to go do it. There was something. So there's a question. There's something I've always wondered actually while I was looking at how many of the restaurants you went to did you fund the whole thing? Did you pay for everything? Did people like pseudo sponsor you by giving you stuff so you could take pictures of it and post it? Was a mix of the 2 things?
Yeah, it was a combination of a few things. I think I only raised, I could go back to the Kickstarter campaign now to check. I don't remember what the total was, maybe 3 or 5. No, it was maybe 8 or 10,000, something like that. So, a good chunk of that went to the van, and I severely underestimated how much money it would take to dine out for every meal of the day, and also put gas in the vehicle as well. And so I did have a few supporters that would check in periodically and say, how's it going? Do you need more money? Which was incredibly generous and wonderful. And in
That's
fact,
great.
My memoir is dedicated to one of them because he was such an amazing supporter and just a really nice person who just wanted me to see the trip through and promote veganism by way of that journey. And so, yeah, it was a combination of some donors that continue to support the trip. When I first started, I was making a much bigger effort to reach out to restaurants and let them know what I was doing and the purpose behind it, and that I was going to come to their restaurant and eat at their place. And so the East Coast restaurants were periodically sponsoring me because that's where I started. And by sponsoring, I mean, occasionally they would offer a free meal. I would never ask for that, but sometimes they would offer it if they saw my email before I came in. And then it got much harder as I kept going to keep that up, to keep reaching out while writing the blog post, while driving, while eating, all the things.
Totally.
So that kind of dropped off in terms of my effort to let people know I was coming, which also meant that I wasn't getting as many free meals, but that wasn't my priority at all.
Right, of course.
Although as I met people, other vegans and other travel enthusiasts, or if they heard about my journey, they would often want to meet up for a meal and they would offer to pay. So that's also how I was able to take showers. I wasn't quite on the I hadn't put in enough effort to know that you could get like a gym membership and then use those places to take showers. So I was
Planet
really
Fitness.
Exactly. Yeah, I didn't quite get on that bandwagon, or I just wasn't aware of it. So I was really utilizing the support of what was essentially the vegan community across the country for showers and doing laundry and occasionally a free meal. Yeah.
You mentioned that the goal was to go to all of the vegan restaurants in the country, but what was the main goal behind it? What were you trying to show? Like, what were you trying to put out there? Did you have an idea in mind or something that you wanted to convey to people?
Yeah, part of it was that I wanted to make veganism feel more accessible. I wanted to make it clear that you could go out to eat and not die, starve. And obviously, since I was traveling to the vegan food, that of course made it easier. Certainly, depending on where you're going, and if you're traveling to a destination for a reason other than the food, you may need to plan in a different way. But yes, to answer your question, it was my form of activism to talk about veganism, highlight how amazing and diverse the food can be, because I think for a long time, and maybe still so, there's a misconception that it's just salad or that it's bland and boring, but
How do you get your
especially
protein?
now.
No.
Exactly. How do you get your protein? But I mean, gosh, it's been 10 years, almost 10 years since I started that journey. So the arc of veganism and plant-based milks and meat alternative, I mean, it's just a totally different world than it was even when I started that trip.